welcome to Pauley Pavilion, or I guess you've been here, so you should be welcoming us. Excited to have Nez Balelo here, one of the best and most successful agents, not only in baseball, but in all of sports. And Nez, I want to kick off by asking you, it's been well documented how the Angels were able to recruit Shohei Otani. You represent Shohei Otani. How did you develop that relationship? How were you able to recruit Shohei?
Well, first of all, hello to everyone. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, it was a process, and it's something that just didn't happen overnight. The first time I set eyes on him, I was back in Japan, actually recruiting another player, and he was young. He was in a high school tournament, and I set eyes on him for the first time, and he was a special talent. He stood out, and I happened to be staying at a hotel, and the hotel was named New Otani. So I'm like, all right, I'm never going to forget this name, because I asked a colleague who the kid was, and they said, oh, that's Shohei Otani, and that's how it all started, and I kept an eye on him. And his story was incredible, because he had an opportunity to go play pro ball out of high school, and he decided to sign with the Fighters because they were going to allow him to do both. And it was a really honorable group of people, and they were really genuine when they told him and his family he was going to be able to do both. And so that's how it all started. He had a great career with the Fighters, and then he decided, because they had an understanding, the family and the player and the organization, that they would allow him to go play pro ball whenever he was ready. And we caught wind that he was ready, and we started the process and spent some time with him and the family, and he came aboard, and it's been a great ride.
Whether it's Shohei or many of the other athletes who you currently represent, have represented over the years, really at the heart of being successful as a sports agent is being able to build relationships.
Correct.
Building relationships with players' families, with people in the orbit surrounding players, building relationships with front offices. What are the keys to building successful relationships?
It's built around trust. I started in the business, and I didn't have a lot of experience when it came to the business part of it. I played, I developed, I scouted, I understood the front office stuff, but I didn't know the intricacies of the business part of it. And so my relationships with the players that I was recruiting and the families was all built on trust. And I've kept that. I think it's just so important to keep things just on the up and up, very honest. You call it the way it is. Sometimes, that tough, truth to an individual. It's hard for them to understand it sometimes. But tough love sometimes build character, and when you build character in an individual, they later appreciate it. And I would say that was the big thing for me through all the years I've been in this business, that the clients could get a real understanding that I'm shooting them straight and I'm doing the best for them, and they see the effort, and I think that's what has put me in the position I am in today.
I'm going to ask you about how you got to the position you're in today. It was really predicated on a character building moment, and for those of you here who have played baseball, you know that one of the first things you learn as an infielder, you were an infielder, I was an infielder when I played baseball, is you learn how to pivot. And in business school, you teach students how to pivot in business. Critical to pivot. Your career predicated on pivoting. Can you share with the audience how you were able to pivot after that pivotal moment in your life that forced you to change paths on your journey?
Yeah, what Adam's alluding to is I had a pretty major accident when I was in the heart of my career, and it was a real stinger, and you don't anticipate any of that in life. And so I had to really understand adversity and pivot, like you're saying, and I did, and picked up the pieces and moved on and just tried to figure out what was next for me. When you're thinking in your eyes and your family's eyes that you're going to be a 10, 15-year big leaguer, and then all of a sudden that door shuts off. You got to figure it out. And so I've always enjoyed working with kids. I've always enjoyed just exploring different things, and I've always had this entrepreneurial mind. And so I got into development and working out kids and training them, and one thing led to another. It started a really big business, and a lot of the talent that I was developing through all the schools that I had, I ended up representing, and that's how I got into the business. And so back to the trust factor, I built a lot of trust with my students and then players that I represented in the families because of the long-standing relationship as well. So I was very fortunate to have that and to build a good foundation. And then once I learned the business, I figured, you know, now I wear every hat. And so here we go. And but yeah, the pivot part of it, it's not easy. We all go through different things in life, but this one was difficult, but it ended up working out pretty good.
Any tips for everyone here, anyone facing a difficult moment like you faced in your journey, on how to power through that, how to overcome whatever setbacks, obstacles, challenges we face in our lives and in our careers?
Yeah, it's not easy. And I'm not going to say it was some cakewalk. I woke up the next day and I was off and rolling because, you know, it was a major, major blow. And so I think once you get your senses back and you surround yourself with really good people. I just got married at the time, and, you know, this was my wedding gift to my wife, and she's like, oh my God, what am I getting into, right? She thought she was marrying a big leaguer. And then all of a sudden the rug is pulled out from underneath me. She's like, okay, what are we doing next? I'm like, I don't know, but we don't have any money. We got a bunch of bills. But she was great. She's been my rock, you know, for the last 36 years, and she's been wonderful. But I was very fortunate. I had good people around me. But, you know, the one thing I learned early on in life, you know, and I think it came from my father, is that, look, there's going to be things that are not going to always go your way, and you just have to just take one day at a time and just make the best of it. And that's what I did, and I just picked up the pieces, and then I started really focusing on what's next. And I was always driven as a baseball player, and I figured if I could take the same approach in life and business with that same work ethic that I learned early on from my old man, I think I could do something with it, and that's where I'm at.
And you had a couple of steps from being a baseball player to ultimately becoming an agent, but you were one of the first employees in the LA office at CAA. CAA, as big a player as there is in the industry, what have been the keys in your career to excelling in such a competitive industry?
It's a very competitive industry, but that was one of the choices I made because I had my own agency when I sold the facilities in the schools and partnered up with a gentleman that was been in the business a little bit. And then shortly after that, I head over to IMG, and it was more of an established company and some really good agents that I can learn from. And that was the whole idea. I needed to surround myself with people that I could really, really like pick their brain and get a better understanding of the business side. And then, geez, shortly after that, there was a big change in the IMG management because Mr. McCormick passed away and things changed, and it was a different leadership group. So we were able to move on, and we did. And so we started the sports group over at CAA. And so I was one of the first, if not the first, in the sports group here in LA. And we just saw this whole thing grow. And I think it's been now 16, 17 years, and it's wonderful. It's a great leadership group. The culture is amazing. They kept talking to us about the culture and embrace it and the resources and all of it. And sure enough, it was real. And I think it's because of the leadership group over there, for them to have the vision, the way we saw the vision of growing our sports group. It all came together, and the collaboration between entertainment and sports, people questioned if it could work, and it did. And boy, what a ride. I mean, I've seen it grow from, you know, being in our theater in LA with maybe 30 of us, and seeing it grow to it's a global division now.
Is there anything that stands out to you as you think about what allowed you to rise within your career in such a competitive space? That are there certain factors, certain variables that you could share with the audience here that they may be able to apply as they're thinking about how to rise within their careers?
I look at things different. I can honestly say that I think that people in my business and people that are in my position, they operate differently. I think it started back when I had my facilities. There was starting to develop some competition, and I don't know what it was. I just always ignored it. I just focused on what I needed to do. And I've taken that concept throughout my entire career. Like, I don't really focus on competition, because I learned this early on when I was working for the Braves. At the same time I had my facilities and schools, I was working for the Braves as a special assignment scout, and I was able to touch some really good people over there. And I learned something one day from John Sherholtz, who's an amazing leader in his own way, and he talked to all of us. It was about, 100 of us in a room, and he said, listen, if you guys look around to your left and right, eventually the horse is if you're in a horse race, the horse is gonna pass you. And then all of a sudden you have all the dirt and everything, you can't focus, He goes, you gotta just put the blinders on. We are the Braves, we are the organization that people envy. Focus on that and only us. And I was like, gosh, it just resurrected, it just hit me. So I took that into business, because at the time I had my business, and I've always done that throughout this very competitive business that I'm in. So to answer your question, I just focus on myself, and I focus on the staff, and I focus on the clients. I don't allow distractions to come into my life, because the minute people start looking around, you're wondering what your competition's doing, and you're focusing on their decks, and you're focusing on what are you doing? You're focusing on what other people are doing. When if you take that time and energy and you focus on what you need to do, it makes the difference. And that's what I really have done my entire career.
And a number of the clients that you're focused on weren't born in the United States. A number of the clients that you're focused on don't speak the English language, or don't speak the English language as fluently as many of us do. What does it take today to manage the modern international athlete? What is entailed from your seat at the table?
It's a wonderful challenge to wake up to every day, and I love it. I've represented some really great athletes here domestically, and when I had an opportunity to start representing some players overseas, more focused on Japan, I just learned more about their culture and how wonderful they are, and how respectful they are, and how they appreciate the work that you do. And it was so refreshing. So it started with one, it led into another, and then I started trying to really focus on just a small core of players that I wanted to represent. And that's where I got an opportunity to get in front of Shohei, and when he came aboard, it's you just learn what other cultures and what other countries are doing, and I've really embraced it. And I think it's the challenge. You get to a point in your career where things are pretty comfortable, right? And you're rolling, and you're in the fast lane, and everything's great. And when this opportunity came around, I'm like, okay, now it's time to really pivot. Now it's time to take this thing into another gear, and see what's out there and really explore it. And that's what I'm doing. And we're taking this to just another level. And it's just such a fun ride. We're just getting started, and I enjoy it. I love it.
As an agent, you're pushing your comfort zone. Players are pushing their comfort zones. Players are moving to a new country, learning a new language, learning a new culture. In Shohei's case, doing something that no one's ever done before. I had Joe Madden on my podcast last week, and I asked Joe Madden, what is it like to manage Shohei Otani? And he shared some really interesting insights. He spoke about how Shohei is such a selfless person, never gripes when an error is made behind him. He shared that Shohei is a great observer. What is Shohei Otani like off the field? Who is Shohei Otani, the human being?
Just very humbled. He just takes the approach of just staying in his lane. He's so focused and so committed to wanting to be the best, but he doesn't do it in an arrogant way. It's just, he's just so committed. And to do what he's doing, to put it in perspective, it's and I watch it every day. It's just incredible how you can qualify for the ERA title and qualify for the batting title as an individual. Like just to accomplish that is amazing. But no, he's just a wonderful individual, and I'm fully committed to making sure things go right. Look, in my business, I just talked about I love what I do, but there's also challenges with what I do. I don't believe in error. I believe that there's just no room for it. So I approach this account, this individual, and all my others the same way. And it gets to be a lot, but it's worth it because I know he appreciates it. And when you have clients that respect and appreciate the work that you do on their behalf, it makes all the difference. And I think everybody in this room can attest to that if you are appreciated and you just get a thank you and a please once in a while, it makes all the difference in the world. And so that's what keeps me going with him and all the rest of the guys. And but yeah, I can't say enough good things about him and how impressed I am daily. I'm just super proud the way he's handled himself. Talk about adversity. He's gone through it. I mean, he showed up to spring training his first year. I mean, he didn't even show up. Like, it was rough for him. And he just dealt with it, and he handled all the negativity in the press, and I was just super proud the way he handled it. And he got through it. And Joe Madden, the first time he set eyes on him was the COVID year in 20. And you took an individual that is so committed to routine, and he completely was out of his routine. He couldn't work out, he couldn't eat right at the field, he was limited on what he could do. He was just in a tailspin, and that was Joe's first experience. Joe's like, who is this guy? There's so much hype on him, like, is he gonna show up this year? But then Joe saw it in 21, and Joe saw it this year, so it was great. I miss Joe. He's a good one, and make sure you tell him hello next time you talk to him for me.
A great guy. A number of people here work in sports. A number of people here are interested in working in sports. What are the biggest misconceptions about your day-to-day life, and what advice do you have for anyone interested in doing what you do?
Well, I'll tell you that if you want to get into the sports management world, I encourage you, if you're going to do it, you can't just go 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You have to be fully committed. You have to be all in, and it takes a long time to establish yourself in this industry because it's highly competitive, and you have to be patient, and you have to be focused on what you need to get done daily. And I get out there and I speak to a lot of sports management groups and organizations and classes, and at the universities, and they're young, ambitious. They want it. We put the mic around the room and we ask a little Q&A, and they want to do what I do, And so the first thing I say, I show them my cell phone. I go, it's never shut off. I said to one individual one time, I said, tell me about your Christmas morning, and Catholic kid. And he says, I wake up, we open presents, spend time, we have breakfast with my family, the whole thing. I go, you know what I'm doing? I'm calling about 20 clients and saying, Merry Christmas to you and your families, hello, or some other clients that don't celebrate Christmas, I'm calling them on their holiday. And that's what I do. That's my day. And I'm fully committed to what I do. And you have to take that extra step, mile, whatever you want to call it, to really make sure that they know that you're committed as well. But it's a great profession, but it takes a lot. It wears on you, and like anything. But when you get out of bed in the morning, it's different because you don't know what to expect is going to happen that day. It's not like I have a set schedule and then you just go home. It's just, in my business, it's called curveballs. And I'm throwing a curveball every day. You just got to be able to handle it and be able to do something with it. And that's the challenge, but I look forward to that challenge every day.
I love it. I'm looking around the audience and I see that we have a mix of students and professionals, but the one commonality is no matter what you're doing, you always need to be a better negotiator. As a student, you're negotiating with your professors for better grades. In the real world, you're negotiating deals. You've negotiated billions of dollars of deals. You just negotiated a $30 million deal for Shohei. What are your best tips on the topics of negotiations and deal making?
Well, first of all, I never negotiated with a professor, and if I did, I probably failed miserably. So I never gone there, just so you know, any professors here. Negotiations, it's interesting. You have to do your homework, and you have to do your due diligence, and you have to understand what you're negotiating for and who you're negotiating with. I think that understanding the landscape of the overall complexion of the deal is very important, and you have to be able to do your due diligence and have to understand what the end goal is and where you're trying to get to. I've always negotiated in honesty, and I think it's put me in a position I am today. Because when you tell another club, I have a better deal, I'm giving you a time frame, if you want to step up, the player would love to play for you, and they call your bluff. And then at the end, you go to the other team and it's a better deal, you gain respect in this profession. But when you try to leverage somebody and you get called out on it because you're not operating with integrity and honesty, good luck. So I've learned that early on, that you have to really be careful there. And another thing about negotiating is you have to be creative, and you have to really trust yourself to understand like where you need to get to. And I think it really makes the difference. I was on the phone yesterday with a group, and I knew a little bit about where we were trying to get to, but I just was thinking on the fly, and there were some things that I had to just get really creative with right away. And I think you just gain more experience as you go with those type of things, but you also have to have you have to be savvy. You have to be able to really understand who you're negotiating with, and sometimes you got to put it out there and you got to roll it, and that takes time and experience to do. But if I had to give you one thing to take away when it comes to negotiating, is just make sure the other party understands that you're an honest person. Make sure the other party understands that you want what they want to try to get a deal done, and try to come to a common ground. And the last thing I'll leave you is that anybody that negotiates, you always want to win. You're not always going to win in a negotiation, but you can walk away hugging it out and be fair. And I think that that's important too, because getting the better end of the stick, there's 30 clubs and there's 30 GMs and there's 30 owners that I have to deal with. And it's going to come full circle again. And when you get the better end of the stick every time, because you were not maybe up front with it, be careful, because then you're going to get the shorter end of the stick maybe the rest of your career. So I've been keeping an eye on that as well.
Nez, we have under a minute, so I'm going to ask you one quick question, which is thoughts on the future of baseball? Anything for baseball fans to look out for?
Well, we just buttoned up a new CBA. CBT is the threshold, which I have to deal with a lot. But we just buttoned that up, and so we have a good working relationship for the next 5 years, and we're happy with the direction of where baseball is going now. I know we've run into some obstacles here the last couple, 2-3 years through COVID, and then not really seeing eye to eye on the negotiations to button up the CBA. But I think baseball is on the up and up. I think we're going in a good direction. I think both parties are understanding the value of what each party brings. And I know my players are happy about where we're going with it. And so we're excited about what's going to happen in the next 5 years. And I really believe that both parties do not want to go through what they've continuously have gone through the last few years, and they just don't want to do that again. So I really believe that we're going to have a good working relationship for many years to come.
Great. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you.